Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello there. Welcome to Life Lessons and Laughter with Glenn Ambrose. Look at that. Smooth.
You did it. Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Let's move on.
All right. Ben's here with me as always, and Dave.
Hey. You're just going to hear me, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave is like, sometimes he throws a peace sign.
Yeah. It's cool. I'm the co-host. We don't need him.
He does all the work while we chat.
Exactly. So, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about... There's a few ways I've heard it phrased. One way that I like is navigating your way around staying where you are. I think Michael Bernard Beckwith said it that way. And I've also heard it said, fighting for your right to stay miserable.
Yeah, you've talked about that with me before.
Yeah. Yeah, it's big. We all do it in a lot of ways. I've also heard it another way, and I don't know if I'm going to get this one right, but I'm going to throw it out there. It's something about being more focused on like the truth and what's going on now and the truth of what's going on now than what we want to happen in the future. And basically, no matter how you say it, it all comes out the same way. If you're, I have a lot of conversations with people who are really bound and determined to stand in the truth of what's going on right now. This is what's going on, and this is the truth. And if I deny it, then I'm not being honest. And it's, we have to be honest with ourselves.
Can you give an example of that?
Yeah, I mean, just, generally, what the conversation is today about is somebody standing in the fact, like, I'm out of work right now and I don't have any money. That's a fact in people's lives, and that's the truth in what they're standing. And they want to stand in that and proclaim that as their truth. And anything other than that is denial. And it's if whatever we focus on, we're going to perpetuate, we're going to bring into our lives. So that might be the truth now. And that is a result of what's happened in the past. But what do you want your future to look like? So if you stay focused on proving that, and usually there's a victim mentality to that. It's usually not their fault, why they're out of work. So it's reinforcing that victim mentality, and that what they end up doing is projecting the same future on themselves as what they're standing in now. So it's the more they think about it, and the more they stomp their feet and say, this is what's going on, this is the truth, they're actually setting it up to be the truth in the future too.
Right.
Because they're standing in that identity. They're standing instead of looking down the road. And it's, sometimes I have to get to the point with people where I'll just challenge that the fact that you need to live in the truth is a lie. Like, why is the truth so important? Like, and I mean, like I said, this is a tricky one because there is a level of honesty that we need to have with ourselves and with others. But when we're looking at our surroundings, and our surroundings paint the picture that our life sucks, how does that make us feel?
Right.
Sucky, So if the reality of the present makes me feel miserable, then I'm not going to focus on the reality of the present because I don't want to be miserable.
This reminds me of the Confucius saying, he who thinks he can and he who thinks he can are both usually right.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's truth to that. It's where, a lot of the, and I've said this before, a lot of the spiritual sayings and things connect with each other, sometimes in slightly different ways. And it's because there's only so many spiritual truths that underlie everything, and if I want to sit there and say, okay, I can make up my own thought of what I want to stand in. I'm gainfully employed. That's what I want to be thinking about. I want to be thinking about being gainfully employed. And now I need to take some action wherever I can, put out some resumes, go knock on some doors, whatever I need to do. Obviously I need to take action, but I'm going to be focused on, excuse me, on being gainfully employed. And then somebody that's trying to stay miserable will be like, well, you're lying to yourself. Well, I'd rather lie to myself and be happy than be honest with myself and be miserable. Because I'm happy. And that's my reality. I'm either happy or I'm not happy. And if I'm being happy and doing whatever I need to do to improve my future, then I'm walking even more towards that happiness in happiness. If I'm sitting stuck in my present situation and am completely focused on that and how miserable I am, then that's where I'm staying stuck, and I'm miserable while I'm there on top of it.
This sounds like a really hard sell to someone who is miserable and knows why they're miserable.
Absolutely.
This seems like almost an impossible sell.
Well, nothing's impossible because it's the truth. So if you come at it, if it's an impossible sell when people don't want to buy. If they're bound and determined they're going to stay stuck and they don't give a crap who says what about what, then yeah, it's a complete impossible sell because they're bound and determined they're going to stay stuck. But if somebody's open to experiment different ways, I mean, the reality of it is, would you rather be happy or would you rather be right? Most of us have heard that, and we can choose to be happy. That's what happiness is. It's a choice. It's not getting all things lined up in a row and making sure we have everything that we want. That's not happiness. Just ask anybody that's achieved it, and happiness wasn't there. The world is littered with them. Otherwise there would be nobody that was successful on the material world with drug problems, with relationship problems. I mean, those are the ones we hear the most about. Turning to drugs, being married 8 times. This is if success made people happy, all that dysfunction wouldn't be happening at the successful high level.
So, how do you change that? How do you get somebody that's not willing to buy?
To buy?
Yeah, someone that's not willing to buy into this, that is stuck. Because that's the thing. It's easy to change if you're willing to and wanting to change, but this is about navigating being stuck. And if you're stuck, then you're not necessarily always willing.
Right, and the people.
So how do you initiate that change? How do you sell it to somebody who won't buy?
I don't. It's impossible. I can't change anybody. I can't fix anybody. I can't change them. I can't open them up. I'm not God. I can't do that, and neither can anybody else on the planet. At the end of the day, our lives are our own choices. So if somebody's determined that they're not buying, and there's not a thing I can do or say that's going to change that. I mean, if they happen to be around me and little by little something seeps in, wonderful. That can happen. But usually people that are completely against buying don't like being around me. Because I truly believe in what I'm saying, and it's how I live, and it's what I talk about. So it's really annoying to somebody who's not buying. You know, after a while, they're just like, I can't stand to be around them, which is fine. You know, I mean, it happens. I don't take it personally. I mean,
Right.
It's just we're at different places at that particular time. So, but the thing of it is you never know if somebody has this little pocket of openness or willingness or hope down inside. And if all you got to do is touch that with the right words sometimes, and they open up a little bit more, then you touch it again and it opens up a little bit more. And, then all of a sudden something starts changing. I mean, the only time you can't reach somebody that doesn't want to be reached. You just can't. However, most people want to be reached on some level or another. A lot of people do. So
What about getting stuck halfway through being reached? What if it's somebody that wants to be reached and or is trying to, someone that did buy in, someone that does want to do that, and then those people get stuck along the way too.
Yeah, and I think usually the best thing to prove to people that this is true is their own experience. That it's very difficult. I probably say impossible a lot of times, but anything's possible if you shut down hard enough. It's near impossible to argue with your own experience. That's why I usually phrase it like, what do you have to lose? You're miserable now. So give it 3 months of real hardcore trying and effort. And if you bust your butt for 3 months with everything you can, then at the end of that 3 months, look, see what's happened. You got to give it a little bit of time. But to start seeing your life change, it doesn't take that long. In a few months, you can start seeing dramatic changes in your own experience. And then you can build off of that, but where people will do a half-ass effort and then get half-ass results and then kind of push them aside. They're like, yeah, but that could have been coincidence. Yeah, that could have been, but I don't know, and that's, then that's a different version of navigating your way around staying stuck. So if you really want to give this a shot, then give it 3 months. Have somebody to talk to. Get a life coach for a few months. Get somebody who is living a happy spiritual life. Or if it's a financial situation that you want to change and you just want to focus on that and not spirituality, go find a mentor, somebody to tell you what to do for 3 months. Because you can't depend on yourself for 3 months. That's the whole point. Depending on yourself got you where you are, So you need to depend on somebody else's version of reality, somebody else's way of looking at things, and then do it their way for a few months. You just obviously need to be very careful who you choose, I mean, they have to have something that you want, may it be happiness, financial success, whatever. Relationship success. It can be anything, really. But, pick a professional or someone you trust, or, you have to, and you really have to put your life in their hands and put your thinking in their hands for a while. Because when I first started doing it, all common sense became uncommon sense. I knew I was pretty intellectual thinker. I would break things apart and make sense out of them and back up my findings with a long list of facts and prove it to people. Oh, see this? Let me tell you why, my misery, there was absolutely nothing I could do about it. And most of the people would walk away from the conversation and be like, wow, poor Glenn. You know, because I made a really good argument. I was good at that, you know. I was good at rationalizing life and its behaviors and how it worked and why it wasn't my fault and all that stuff. So when I started doing it somebody else's way, I could come up with 20 reasons why I knew it wasn't going to work. 100% I knew in the core of my being, I knew it wasn't going to work. And then all of a sudden it would work. And I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. And most of the time I couldn't even understand why it worked because it was so foreign to the way I thought for 35 years. It was so foreign that I couldn't even comprehend it. I was dumbfounded. I just had to go with the fact that it worked, not that I understood why it worked.
What are some other ways people can be stuck?
What do you mean?
What about people that are stuck in, you know what? I think maybe one of the last podcasts we did, a recent one, of starting where you are. Sometimes people feel like they are stuck in success. Maybe they have changed. Maybe they have, maybe they've plateaued in a certain area, and now the things that used to fulfill them aren't fulfilling them anymore.
Yeah, but that's usually an example of kind of busyness. You know, some people get a sense of fulfillment walking towards a goal and achieving them and succeeding them, and it's just kind of a distraction from themselves. You know, so they get caught up in a journey of going and going and going and achieving and then all of a sudden they achieve and they get there, and it's not that necessarily that they plateaued and then the same things aren't fulfilling them anymore. It's that they actually got there and they realized that there was no fulfillment at the end. You know, there's no happy ending at the end of an unhappy road.
Yeah.
And there's no, there's no if you're caught up in achieving something and you think that that's going to give you the fulfillment and the happiness you're looking for, then you get there and you're like, oh, yeah, I'm not really all happy and fulfilled. Well, that's because it doesn't come from achievement. It doesn't come from, getting something or being something. It comes from within. And if you're growing along the way, if you're changing who you are inside and becoming happier and learning lessons and growing along the way to an achievement, then once you get there, you can get a great deal of fulfillment from an achievement because you've been growing along the way, but it's not the actual achievement that you're feeling in that fulfillment and that happiness. It's not the actual achievement. That's just a marker of it. What it is, it's who you became along the way. It's all the growth that you went through and lessons you learned along the way that brought you the happiness.
Do you think it doesn't help to get angry about being stuck? In whatever way you are stuck?
That's kind of a catch-22. Because, you have to... anger is a natural feeling, so there's no reason why we should say, we can't feel angry. I mean, we can feel angry, but we can't stay there, And actually, anger can be a stepping stone to getting out because, depression is a lower vibration than anger. So if somebody's depressed and they're just sitting in that depression, they actually have to take a step up the emotional ladder to get to anger. So that can actually, anger can sometimes be progress,
And I have our quote for today.
You do?
Yeah. All right, ready?
Hold on. Yeah, okay, I'm ready.
Any action is often better than no action, especially if you have been stuck in an unhappy situation for a long time. If it is a mistake, at least you learned something, in which case it's no longer a mistake. if you remain stuck, you learn nothing. It was written by someone named Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah, Tolle's amazing. That's why I like reading Tolle, because he just puts it right out there. Yeah, it is. It's better to rock the boat than just to sit there. And I've done that in times in my life, and it hasn't been easy. You know, I mean, I honestly, I like really, I believe in learning my lessons easy now. It's something I say often. It's something I hope for. It's something I ask for, because I've learned a lot of my lessons through pain and difficulty, and that sucks. You know, I don't like learning like that. It's painful. So, but in the past, that I experienced a decent amount of fear and pain when I just took action, because I was so stuck that I didn't know what else to do. You know, I had done a lot of work on myself, and I couldn't see how to get out of my present job situation. And I was like, you know what? I can't, you know, I tried finding another job for like a year, and then I had another year anniversary at my job, and I was like, oh no, I've been looking for a year and I can't get out of this. And then it happened on another year. You know, I mean, granted, I got caught up in my life and stuff, and there was times when I could have searched more and could have done more, but I didn't.
That's the worst, when you realize that a year has gone by, like, out of nowhere.
Yeah, and it's like, and I'm still stuck where I was, and I'm not happy here.
Yep.
And it happened to me 2 different times, and I couldn't find my way out of it, you know? And I was just sitting there, and I was like, you know what? I can't do this. If I hit a 4th year, I'm going to lose it. Like, I'm too aware. I know that I'm wasting my life. I shouldn't be here. I'm not happy. I've tried to learn as much as I could from this situation. And if I hit a 4th year anniversary, I'm going to lose my mind. So right around that 3rd year anniversary, I just went out and I really tried getting another job. I found something. I had no idea what it entailed. I just knew it was another job, and I just jumped on it. And it was because I needed to take action. And at that point, I didn't even care what the action was. So I hopped into this job, and it was a nightmare. I literally couldn't bring myself to do it. It was just this outside sales job that was constant rejection. I mean, you would just knock on doors, go into these businesses, and people were completely rude to you. As soon as you said hello, they would insult you and throw you out. And it was horrible. I couldn't, like, my ego could not take those blows time after time after time. And I could not get myself out of the car to go perform my job. So I sat there and I was like, well, I need to support my son. I need to pay my bills. What do I do? And I'm like, well, I don't know how I'm going to do all that stuff, but I can't go to work every day and lie to my boss and pretend that I'm doing a job that I'm not doing. I have to be honest. So I went in and I said, I can't do this job. And they were actually shocked. They had high hopes for me. They thought I was going to do well. But I couldn't do that job. So I left. I explained why, and I left. And that went on about 3 or 4 months, maybe longer, of no job. And I couldn't collect unemployment because I had just quit.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I'm trying to live off credit cards and trying to pay child support and support my son and do that. It was really scary, and I don't recommend doing that. But it was better than staying stuck. You know, at least 6 months later, I was in a different place. I had a different job, and you know what? I didn't like that job either.
Sometimes you can be stuck going after what you want. Sometimes you can go down that road and find out it's not the, you know, as Eckhart Tolle said, it can be a mistake.
Right.
But that's okay.
Right, because you got a step closer. You found out what didn't work. And I did that. That's kind of, I guess that sums up what I did for occupation-wise for about the first 6 or 7 years when I moved up from Florida, and I had all my spiritual awakenings and stuff. I was constantly looking around me, trying to find out what I wanted to be and how I wanted to do it, and trying to be responsible and pay my bills in the meantime. And I kept trying things for the wrong reasons. I awoke in a lot of ways, and I did a lot of wonderful things during that time. But occupation-wise, I was just stumped. I didn't know what to do, so it took me a while to navigate through that. But then finally I did, occupation-wise, as soon as I got off the fact that as soon as I let go of the fear of not being responsible and not bringing home a big paycheck, as soon as I let go of that fear, and I focused on what my passion was, that's when things started changing for the better. It was just, I had been raised that I needed to bust my butt and work hard and be responsible and take care of my responsibilities. And I had been so irresponsible in my former life that now that I had myself together in a lot of ways, I was capable of being this responsible person with these office jobs, and it was just killing me because it wasn't who I was, So it took me a while. That was a tough lesson for me to break through. But I had to rock that boat. I needed to take some sort of action just so I didn't stay stuck.
I have one more quote.
Really?
Along the lines of it's a sillier one.
Oh, okay.
It's along the lines of thinking that you want something, going for it. Thankfully, dreams can change. If we'd all stuck with our first dream, the world would be overrun with cowboys and princesses.
yeah, really. It's true.
Stephen Colbert.
Nice. Thank you, Stephen.
That was
yeah. Well, and it's true. We do change, and that's why we can't. When we look at how we're going to get somewhere that's 30 steps ahead, it seems overwhelming because we're not capable of getting there. And sometimes that's not where we would be headed anyway. But we don't know that until we start walking in that direction. And as we walk in that direction, we grow, we learn, we open up to ourselves. And as we become more of ourselves, we can shape that dream that we have into what we want it to be. But, I think, this podcast was really around, staying stuck. And it's, excuse me. And I think it's just important to know that there is no risk. There's no risk. Try something for a few months. Really bust your butt and try something because your life is worth it. Your happiness is worth it. Your fulfillment is worth it. There's nothing more important than walking around happy. I mean, it's because if you're happy, you can accomplish anything else that you want in your life. But if you're sitting around depressed and miserable, you're not going to accomplish what you want. So if you can just bust your butt for a few months and really set up a structured system where you're accountable to somebody and really tried your best to break out of that rut, then, with somebody else's advice, not your way, with somebody else's advice, and you really bust your butt for 3 months, then if it works, you've got this wonderful, happy life. If it doesn't, what did you lose? You get to go back to being miserable. You haven't lost anything. So it's a win-win situation. You're risking nothing. You're not happy where you are anyway, so why don't you risk not being happy, and you can have it back if it doesn't work. And then 3 months later, you might just change your life. And I guarantee if you put in 110% effort, your life will change in those 3 months. It'll change enough for you to see that it works and to continue on. Guaranteed.
And if they want your help in those 3 months, where can they find you?
They can find me in Florida. No, it's been cold. I just want to get away. So, no, you can find me at life-enhancement-services.com. And find me on Facebook, Life Enhancement Services, and Glenn Ambrose with 2 N's on Facebook as well. So there.
That's it.
That's it. So, find some help, hunker down for 3 months, and really make a push, and you'll be amazed at what your life turns into. So thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.
This podcast is presented by New Shore Productions. Executive producers Glenn Ambrose, Benjamin Barber, and David DeAngelis.